Hi everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota, Zone 5A. Just want to do an update, mid-May garden tour. Things just change so fast this time of year. Got some annuals in the ground. We've got the beautiful Rosy Lights azalea in full bloom right now. I love these sort of round puffball blooms. That was new last year. I planted after the bloom time, so it'll be able to establish even more this year, which is great. The allium, there's Purple Sensation, and then there's one mystery. Sorry if you're hearing dogs barking and neighborhood noises. People are out and about this weekend. Don't remember if that's Gladiator or Globe Master, but that's opening up. See the lily beetle? That little red beetle eating all the holes in my lily? Yeah. But that's okay. Aster, phlox, everything's kind of starting to come up here. My 3 Dark Tower sedum are looking good. Anna's Magic Ball is looking good. Daylily foliage is ugly, but hopefully they'll bloom pretty. The Barbara Harrington clematis, this is why I need to get a bigger trellis. It will do fine, but it really wants to climb all the way up. But it can't because my trellis is too small, so it kind of folds over itself and then blooms. So you can still see the bloom. Still looks good, still pretty, but I would like to get a bigger trellis because it might be even prettier. The drift rose is really filling out. That one, holy cow, did that grow. And that was like chomped down to the ground. But it's like it caught up with how big it was last year. So we've got blooms starting on a lot of things. This is a Veronica. I've got Dalmatian Peach Foxglove. This Amsonia, it's not Storm Cloud. It's not Proven Winners. It's non-proprietary version of Storm Cloud, basically. We got a lot of rain this weekend, so I was able to easily get up all the hoops and stick the stakes in the ground while it was nice and wet. I still have that echinacea protected so I don't slam it with the hose. Here's another Proven Winners phlox. This one is an opening act variety. I think it's pink. The spirea. This is the Tor birchleaf spirea. Blooming beautiful white blooms, looking healthy. And the Cat's Pajamas Nepeta are all in bloom right now too. Those were newly planted in the fall. I still need to move, I may do this today, I still need to move the Limelight Prime Hydrangea out a few feet so it has more space. I did move this hosta though. It was kind of in that big empty spot. Moved it over here last night before the leaves get really full. I figured it'd be easier, although it's never easy when they're that big because they weigh a ton. But I managed to get that moved because I will be planting an upright slim blue juniper in its spot. The species tulips are almost done. A little bit of color left, but they're pretty faded. These sweet tea heucherella look beautiful. Nice and lush. The chokeberry is done blooming, but now its blooms will form like deep black colored berries that look really cool. They are edible, not poisonous, but it is called chokeberry because they taste terrible. So be warned, but I think the critters eat them. This bed is looking like a lot of color coming out right now. I did plant all my bedding annuals over here. We've got all these queen bees are out. I don't know if you can see that big, huge bee on the, oh, of course, now it went to the back of the plant. Big, fat queen bumblebee. They're on the bleeding heart. The Trevi Fountain lungwort is still looking amazing. These bloom for a really long time. This one in particular is very established, so it's absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to kill more grass here with my old garden bed panels to smother it. Virginia leaves look nice and bright. This area definitely gets a lot more sun with the spruce trees down. So I am a little bit worried about these plants once we get to like June and July when the days are longest. They get more sun and it's hot, but just have to deal with it and go from there. I did transplant. There was Giles Van Hees Veronica over in the other bed, which I transplanted here. It always gets mildew. It just blooms away, but it always gets mildew and looks horrible, so I'm hoping that'll improve. We've got the other two Heucherella. I think those two are peach tea. We've got a drinking gourd hosta. And then that is fragrant bouquet hosta. These Viburnum just really took off this year. I think especially getting more sun in the spring, they got going pretty fast. But this bleeding heart goes dormant once it gets hot, so it'll finish blooming. And then the leaves, it'll look green for a little while, but the leaves will kind of start to yellow and wither, so it always gets cut back, and then there's a big hole there, which is why I like to have the hostas and other things. That's why I planted this Sun King Aurelia too, so that there's something to fill that hole. This little guy was coming up, but then the leaves died off, so I think it's a goner, but that's all right. It was super clearance. And then we've got this Joe Pyeweed that I will eventually be moving to a sunnier spot and planting an arborvitae right here. And this is where I moved the stump, or I'll put it basically kind of right where the tree was almost originally that it came from, but I'll put a pot on top of that. This bed looks pretty nice in the shade here. And the lilac has been blooming for a week or two. Just smells delicious, especially in the evening. You can smell it in the whole yard. It's so gorgeous. I love the Solomon seal kind of just arching over the bugleweed or the ajuga here. And we've got the Jackmanii clematis coming up. That one also wants to climb pretty high. I think this year it'll probably bloom a lot more because it's more established. And we've got Rainbow's End hosta back there. I love that one. That one is absolutely gorgeous. And then I have 3 different Jacob's ladder, and the second one has started blooming as well. So I'll make our way back over. When I was digging out grass, I put some of the clumps of dirt in these low spots in the yard. We're going to have bloom soon on this, hopefully by next week maybe, on that hardy geranium. I planted, these are ageratum. I have 6 artist blue. Those are the ones with more yellowed leaves. They were pretty root bound, so they were stressed when I took them out of their cans. So that's why their leaves were starting to yellow, but I think they'll bounce back being in the ground. This one is the Aguilera Sky Blue. I just wanted to compare the 2 varieties, grow them kind of in the same conditions and see how they perform. Oops, I pruned my daffodils. They're still in bloom. Autumn Frost hosta, just nice bright pops. And the Haconocloa grass is really starting to go. And this Viburnum has a lot more blooms, those pretty disc-looking blooms. Those got so much shade before that they only had a few blooms on them, so I'm hoping I get some bright red berries this year. We've got oh, there's the dog. Wants to go inside. We've got some geranium. These are Americana Salmon. Don't know what the variety of that blue hosta. It was unmarked clearance. But we've got, I'm pretty sure that one in the back there is stained glass. That might be guacamole. I don't remember what other variety I planted. But then this, we'll see bloom soon too on this columbine, and it looks like purple and yellow. And then we've got a patch of white echinacea here. The chocolate chip ajuga has started blooming and looks gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. And lots of blooms on the strawberry daiquiri dogwood back here as well. They're not quite opening up just yet, but, well, some of them are now. So, very beautiful. We've got these 3 barberry. And then the yellow plants down here, those are the Nemesia. They're called Nemesia Inca. I grew Nemesia Tropical last year in this spot, and they did amazing. They were so low maintenance. I really didn't even need to deadhead. They were awesome. So I got Inca this year for that bright yellow. Planted some of the Dusty Miller. Bee balm is coming up. That's starting to put on bloom heads as well. The Boom Chocolata geranium. I left some space so it can, I don't know how big it's going to get this year. It's just its first year. We've got the Millennium Allium. This is a Nepeta, like Persian or something. And more of the Americana Salmon geranium planted here around the Drops of Jupiter ornamental oregano. And then I have another patch of echinacea. These are two different colors. The original plants are kind of a bright reddish orange, and then their seedlings are like watermelon pink. So, and then the hydrangeas back here, these are Firelight. Again, not leafing out as full as they normally do. So I'm hoping, especially if we continue getting good rain, I think they'll bounce back because their panicle hydrangeas are pretty tough. We've got a sky blue salvia, the onyx Cucurella back here, and then these look absolutely gorgeous. Those are the Alexandra Brunnera. Got silver foliage and just covered in those blue blooms. Hence the common name False Forget-Me-Not. These Jack Frost Brunnera still blooming away, so don't need to deadhead those yet. The Raspberry Splash Lungwort split open, but its blooms are still full of color, so I'm just going to leave them. Brunnera looks great. These are Plum Cascade Cucurella over here. Maggie Daly Astilbe. I'm hoping these bloom because they have beautiful blooms. And then I do have a Clematis climbing up there. And one little Lungwort Rescue. And a Limelight Prime Hydrangea. And then more of the Brunnera here. And things coming up. There's another Brunnera. Designer Jeans Hosta, that bright one. This Jacob's Ladder is also blooming kind of delicate pinky blue. And then another Autumn Frost Hosta. I really love this area. And then these Cucurella are all putting out their blooms too. Pink Fizz maybe is a variety. Love their kind of like bubblegum pink flowers with white centers. Really cute. Things are looking good though. The Berry Smoothie Heuchera, along with the third mystery one that's similar but not exactly the same. Berry Smoothie is definitely a lot more vigorous than whatever that one is though. I trimmed the Sage Leaf Willow and it is shooting out some new branches where I trimmed the dead ones, so maybe that'll be okay. And we're about to have a little bit of a show over here. You can see the Back to the Fuchsia Salvia is putting out its blooms. Some of them have just started to open. And then this is the Walker's Low Nepeta. And that by next week is just going to be full of color. And then this is more Angelina sedum that has planted itself here. And the Firecracker sedum. And then these three are three more Siberian irises that bloom light yellow. They might be butter and sugar, but I'm not sure. And a yarrow that does okay, but it doesn't get enough sun there to really thrive. But I'm also pleased with this Clematis back here, which is filling out this year a lot more than it has. I think I planted it 2 years ago, but I just want it to kind of scramble along this fence here. And we've got more Astilbe. These are the pink blooming ones, either Rhineland or Deutschland. I need to look that up, although I'll probably forget it again. I don't know how many times I've looked it up. But they are going to bloom. You can see those coming up there. And then I kind of remembered that two of these Astilbe are Vision in white, and a third one is Razzle Dazzle. So two of them bloom white, one of them blooms pink. I'm getting blooms for the first time. Budding up on the Viburnum. All that glitters or all that glows. Its pollinator is over in the other garden, although that one's not full of buds, so I don't know if it will actually pollinate each other if they don't bloom at the same time. We've got a Lady Fern, two more Mystery Astilbe that bloom white, and another Alexandra Brunnera. Sorry for the barking. And the this guy fills in. This is another Sun King Aurelia. And it looks kind of bare around it, but that is because it gets so enormous that it fills in this entire space. So that is why I don't have things planted around it. And then we've got a little bit of bee balm. I think that's a hot pink one too. But the veggies are doing good. The cat, you can see, has still been using this. So I seeded carrots where all of these stakes are on this end. And cats have disturbed almost, oh, and they left me a little present there. Great. I'm going to have to get a bag and clean that up. So I don't know. I'm going to have to cover this. I have some shade cloth netting that I think I'll have to put over the top of this in order to keep them out. That's why I have all these stakes here. I even made like a little sharp, those are landscape stakes that I stuck in the soil upside down. I don't know if that's actually working to keep them from jumping up. Maybe I can go all the way around the edge. But over here, I just have the seeds covered. So we've got zucchini there and there. This popped up. It's not zucchini, obviously some other kind of squash. I don't know where that came from. But then 2 peppers in this bed. I'll be doing some herbs in here. My garlic's doing great. Shallots are looking good. I got 1 potato sprout coming up. Those are potatoes from last year that I didn't eat. They were down in the basement, had like foot-long sprouts on them. So I just laid them on their side and kind of circled the sprouts around. So hopefully they'll do good. Got spots for peppers here, which I'll get planted. Shallots still looking great. Strawberries are just full of bloom. Some of them are starting to put on fruit. That's an ever-bearing variety. It gets its biggest harvest in June. But the patch looks really nice this year. My Salanova lettuce is looking great. These red ones are almost getting ready where they're at the size to harvest. Red ones always stay a little bit greener, smaller than the green ones. I've learned, so I need to harvest them earlier. And then more garlic here. My pea pods are all coming up. And then I'll be planting some basil, cucumbers, and then I use this trellis for my squash. It works okay. This netting has been, I think I'm just going to wrap twine to kind of supplement the netting because it's been chewed up or broken in a number of spots because it stayed outside during the winter months. So that's my chore for today. We can pop up front here. I just love the Dr. Seuss sort of quality of those allium. I do wish my neighbors would let their dog in when he barks like that. They just leave him out to bark and bark and bark and bark. And bark and bark and bark and don't let him in. So it's kind of annoying. We've got the 3 Bobo hydrangeas looking great. Hostas, I'm pretty sure that one is some in substance. I planted all of this like late in the fall. So I don't know that I may have to move that Brunnera away because I know some in substance gets big. I'll put a pot here and then a salvia. We've got a rock and grow sedum. These orange geum are just starting to bloom now. Look beautiful. Same with this dianthus. Just it gets those kind of cool hot pink blooms all over it. So Solomon seal. We've got, this is the, what's the pink? This is the Proven Winners Dicentra. Mystery heuchera, another ghost fern. We've got turtlehead. Honeysuckle, of course, looking great. I don't know if the bird is still nesting in there. That is pretty much engulfed now by the honeysuckle, that bird's nest. I should maybe move it over. More rock and grow upright sedum. Still waiting to collect my plants. I'm going to do annuals in here where the Rudbeckia died, although a chunk of it lived, so I'll leave that. Another fragrant bouquet hosta. That one is humongous. You can see how those 2 phlox are now covered up, so I'll have to transplant those. They bloom hot pink, but they get powdery mildew so bad because they don't have any airflow back there. So planted a different phlox. This is the opening act, also a pink one. The lamb's ear is putting up bloom stalks. I do let it bloom. I like how it looks and then trim it back. Same thing with the lady's mantle, just about to bloom. Here, pretty yellow colors. You can see back there all the rain that we got kind of weighed down some branches on the dogwood, and we had a dry, sunny, windy day yesterday, and they didn't stand back up, so I'm just going to cut those back. Dogwood could use a trim anyway. It's probably getting too tall. But look how full of blooms it is. Isn't that gorgeous? I saw all of those buds, and I just didn't want to cut them off. And then there'll be white berries too after the blooms are done. But I think I will selectively prune a little bit more. I did prune out some really big branches from the base. We've got another mystery hosta, unlabeled clearance. This one is called Mini Skirt. It's a small guy. We've got another Autumn Frost, and then another Fragrant Bouquet, and then the Desdemona Ligularia back there. I think this hosta is Curly Fries, and that one is Vulcan for sure. And then we've got some Japanese painted fern. So I see blooms coming up. Those purpley plants are penstemon. And then there's St. John's wort, that sort of blue-looking little guy. And then those grassy things are Leotris, Kobold. And then the beautiful 9-bark, that is Tiny Wine 9-bark. Really taking up. I have been plant shopping even more. I think I'm done with what I need now. But at Gertens, I scored this Arbovita. This is De Groot Spire, a slower growing variety, but I really like the swirly kind of texture to the leaves. That was on clearance for $20. I think it was on clearance because it had a lot of like winter dead stuff in here, which I scraped it all out, but you can see all the growth points coming. See all those little buds? So where it lost all the leaves from the winter kill, I think it will sprout new leaves because it still has growth points along those stems. So $20, not a bad deal. My geranium, I think this one is called Occult Shield. Maybe not. I get them mixed up. But I overwintered both of these indoors. This one is Calliope Rose Mega Splash. I need to get that one in a bigger pot. And my seed geraniums. The first ones are starting to open, and I'm so anxious to see the bloom color. Same thing with the Caramel Rudbeckia mix. That one's budded, about to open. Can't wait for that. Basil looking good. I'm going to up pot these today into bigger containers. Otherwise, we got some planting to do in all my pots. These are the 3 Necia Inca that were left over, so I'm going to plant those in the ground up front. But yeah, I kind of started arranging things. I'm going to do color blocking again. So we've got kind of a blue, purple, white section. By the way, if you're local and you're shopping Menards, I have noticed some mislabeled things. This is labeled Angel Face Blue Angelonia. This is a Scaevola. Probably Whirlwind Blue, I'm not sure. None of them were tagged, but I thought it looked kind of Scaevola-like when I bought it, but I thought, well, maybe when they're young plants, they look similar. But that's definitely a Scaevola. Now that it's put on a little growth. This is the Angel Face Pink Angelonia. And that one has the correct tag in it. Angel Face Pink. So watch out for that. I also discovered that I think I remember this from last year, the begonias. So the Surefire begonias, they had trays of them all with the cherry cordial tags. And when it's only one kind, you can't really tell, especially when they're budded up. I thought they looked more pink, but sometimes when they're younger and they're usually in the shade, they don't have as rich of color. But then I saw this one with definitely more of a red toned bloom. And you can see the difference in the leaf color. These are much more darker, more chocolatey leaves, which I remember from growing them last year. And then this bud is more red versus, well, I can't really see it in this light, but it definitely has more of like a warmer red tone versus the cool pink tone. And I thought these looked like Surefire Rose begonias, which I also grew last year. So, but they're all labeled cherry cordial. So at least there were 2 Menards that I found that to be the case. So watch out for that if you're shopping at Menards. And I believe that happened last year too, if I remember right. But just a tip. So we've got, I'm going to do a pink section. We're going to do kind of a peachy coral orange section. We got the blue and the white. I did find one. Fratelloni's Ace Hardware in Arden Hills has a really great selection of proven winners and other annuals. I think they're supplied by Gertens for a lot of their other annuals. I was looking for everywhere, high and low. Sparkling Rose Verbena, they had 1 left, and I scored. So I'm psyched about that. Bummed I could not find Peachy Keen Verbena anywhere. They've had it for years, and maybe it's just late to arrive, I don't know, but at the Garden City tents, they're Garden City greenhouses, and there are some of the temporary tents that go up like in parking lots. They have 9 locations around the Twin Cities, but I've always been able to find Peachy Keen Verbena there, and they haven't had it yet this year. So I have wanted to try this Lanai. This is called Lanai Peach because it looks almost identical. So I thought, well, I'll give that a shot this year and see how it compares. So I will let you know. But yeah, and then this area over here, once I get all my pots up and out as I start planting, and I'll show you how I put things together and start arranging the pots once I get to that part of it. But I'm going to have more of like a foliage garden going where it's purely foliage with very few blooming things. So that's going to be fun. I've been wanting to do that for a while. But my peppers are getting huge. I'm going to bring these to work and give some away. Got the rest of them, a few more planted. Foxglove, everything's looking good. So, really excited to get going. It's a lot of work, as you can imagine. So I have to pace myself, obviously, because I also work full time. And then we've got a few perennials down here, too. Another Cat's Pajamas Nepeta. Those are just going to have to wait till I get my annual planting done. And then I can get those in the ground. So, anyway, I think we will head up to the front yard for a little front yard tour. All right, so here we are in the front yard. I did trim the smoke bush tree, which is not a fun task, and I am not very good at it, but it's done. I think every few years, maybe going to have somebody come and get the really big branches trimmed. It'll fill out, though, but I wanted to do it, and it's still blooming. You see the blooms forming, so it'll have its smoke, which is its blooms, but just want to do it before it leaves out completely. It's a lot harder to see all the branches, but they get really, really long and kind of look Dr. Seuss-like if I don't trim it. So front rock garden here is starting to really fill in. This is a variegated mounding sedum that'll have bright yellow blooms on it. The Angelina sedum was kind of late to bloom this year. I can see a few of those sort of long curly branches are going to turn into blooms. Those are like acid yellow. Normally at this time it is full of blooms though, so I think this winter with no snow cover was kind of hard on it. But we've got these. This is crocus foliage. This is why I like the crocuses, because it's kind of inoffensive as they die back. This is a campanula. And we've got the Russian sage. That one is called Crazy Blue. Stays much smaller, doesn't flop, much more compact. Still gets probably 2.5 feet tall, but probably pretty similar to denim and lace, though I've never grown that one. And we've got, these are a sport of the autumn sedum called Autumn Charm. What's the autumn one that everybody has? It's green leaves with pink blooms. Oh, I see this one has one branch that's reverting. This happens sometimes to variegated plants that are sports of solid plants. See how that one has one branch that's solid green? It will revert to its original parent plant, I guess, sometimes. So I may come and just trim off that branch. But we've got 2 serendipity allium growing here. That one looks good. This one is struggling, so I don't know what's up with that. This spot in particular, I have had multiple things die in this one little patch here where it's kind of bare. I've planted, this is probably the 3rd or 4th sedum I've planted, and it keeps coming back. But this spot is just, there's something up. But I love these sempervivum, the hens and chicks. This one has been here. This was originally all landscape rock, that river rock. There was a tree in there years ago, but even the roots were rotted away when we moved in, so I hand dug out all the landscape rock. This was the first area I planted. I wanted to do sort of a rock garden. It does only get the front half of it gets full sun. The back half gets part shade in the afternoon because of the smoke bush tree. The thrift is also blooming. These are such cute little lollipop blooms. This has struggled. Some years it does well. This is an alpine plant. It likes very dry conditions once it's established. So I think that this winter with no snow, and hence no snow melt, actually did it some good. I've got a couple more campanula here. Those are the Rapido. I don't remember, Rapido white and blue. I can't have mixed together. The muscari are pretty much done. I'll cut those bloom stalks back. Another just ground cover sedum that'll turn more red. And this is a Louisia. I planted a few of them and they struggled here. Another Alpine plant, but this one held on last year, so I left it and it looks much healthier. So maybe I'll get a bloom eventually. And then I love this is called 6-sided sedum, that little patch right there. And there's one you can kind of see tucked under the muscari foliage there too. That readily plants itself around. It'll spread one little chunk. But it's not at all invasive, and the roots are incredibly shallow, so you can just easily pop it out with your bare hands if it gets somewhere you don't want it. So, love this little rock garden. And it just has a lot of color all year without me having to do anything, including water, unless it's something brand newly planted. So now we'll wander over to the other side. The solar flare heucherella look great. They're starting to put on their white blooms. The brownish red patches on their leaves will grow bigger as the season goes on. They do get a little bit of sun in the afternoon here. The boxwoods are putting on new growth, looking kind of woolly. I just hand trim these. I don't keep them real shaped up, but I just kind of tidy them up a little bit. Probably in a few weeks. These violas look so cute. Those were the ones that I planted when I just couldn't take all the dead stuff anymore early in the spring. I did get begonias to plant here instead, and I always move the violas. We're a mild climate, so typically they last well into summer, but I was thinking this year I might, under the base of our tree over there, our boulevard tree, I might just pop them all right under that. I think that'll look cute right along the street. This Weigela, it's the purple shades, something from Proven Winners. I do see a few blooms. Last year was a recovery year for it. It was a big, full, round shrub in a mound, but that extremely heavy snow we got the prior year, and a lot of the snow from the sidewalk has to get mounded up over here on top of the boxwoods, which I think is why they don't get winter burn. But it completely crushed Weigela. I learned that Weigela has fairly fragile branches, so this year it wasn't an issue because we got almost no snow. I need to rethink this whole area. I have a few things that I like that I want, but this is a dianthus that was supposed to be an annual, but it keeps coming back, but I also don't really want it there every year. But it blooms hot, sort of magenta pink. And then this is a blue, I don't even know what kind of grass it is because, oh, look at those seeds, pollen or whatever. It was on clearance and I thought it looked cool, but it's kind of spreading a lot and was smaller when I planted the dianthus. I've got a hardy mum that blooms light pink, kind of midsummer. That one's pretty. I've talked about this Lismachia just going bonkers. That'll need to move. I have a couple of heuchera back there, those dark purple ones. Those can stay. Solomon seal peeking out from behind the boxwoods. These poor carex didn't do so well either. That one might be coming back, but I'm going to hide them with annuals planted all around and just see what happens. And then in front, all the bare patches, I plant annuals. I've got a couple opening act phlox, Pinkadot. And they're starting to put on their blooms. And another ground cover campanula here. Not sure what kind that was. It was on clearance at Gertens. The beautiful hellebore, Spanish flare, still looking great. This foliage, it's just so big and glorious this year. And I like the bright green of the foliage too. It pops in the shade. But these blooms are just so pretty. And then this little guy, just full of blooms this year. And that was its first year in the ground. We've got a couple. We've had plenty of rain this year, so the Astilbe are happy. This is either Deutschland or Rhineland. They bloom white. Can't remember which. We've got my hydrangeas aren't looking great this year. They are not leafing out, probably because of the dry winter. I think they'll be fine, and we've had a lot of rain, a rainy spring, which is great. We've got an Island Breeze hosta, a Blue Angel hosta, and I did plant a few ghost ferns here. That one was established. That one's doing great. This one, it's coming. It's struggling, but it's coming. I also stepped on it when I was trimming the tree. And then I kind of forgot that I had this back here. This was a blue hosta that was closer to the front, but it just got scorched every summer, so I moved it back here. And the third one of those is Astilbe again, which got scorched every summer. But because we have plenty of rain this year, they might even bloom, which would be shocking. So a lot of those flats of annuals. Oh, and this is, pardon my cerise bee balm, Monarda as well. But a couple of flats, few flats of the annuals in back are for this garden bed. I moved the stump to the back where I will put a planter on it. I just have to move those bricks over a little bit. I'll have another pot here with annuals in it and annuals planted around. We've got Caesar's brother, Siberian iris, coming up. The string theory Amsonia starting to bloom, those powder blue blooms, and I like the fine foliage, fine textured foliage on it as well, and then it should turn like butterscotch golden yellow in the fall. And heucheras are looking good over here too. Everything's filling out. I don't remember what varieties they are. They were all bought on clearance, except for two of them that were transplanted from the back where they were very unhappy. But yeah, just a little pop of color over here. And then the Patriot hosta is coming back. And the limoncello barberry looks really pretty this year. Really nice. It's got that bright green foliage, and then it gets these edges of the leaves. Kind of that reddish orange on the edges. This one does, because it gets a little more shade, it does sort of darken up midsummer. It won't be nearly as bright, but nothing much going on in the side garden. Tulips didn't bloom, the daffodils, really only that patch bloomed, but the hollyhocks from last year are coming up. And once I hook up, I've got a bunch of annuals to plant here, and I picked up some cabbage. Once I hook up the soaker hose and wet the soil down, all of the self-seeding things will start coming up as well. So that's what's new in the front yard. So again, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Hope you're all having a good time and busy in your own gardens. Bye.